ground, don't disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started, it's the hardest. Talk around, don't disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. Yeah,
get your boots ready. We're about to go on a trip where we wrestle, nobody settling or calling it quits. You're here for the grit, betcha this stuff is amazing. You're stumbling? Welcome to the bump in the apron. Step into it, the hardest part of the ring. Here to bring fun, yeah, in this art he is king. It's the best thing, making sure you don't tap out. Don't go soft with the hardest podcast out. And it's not just another one, it's clear. Off the rest, in this content, none contest. Take the nonsense off the steps. You know it's nothing but pure gems when it's coming off the chest. Get it? Now it's time to sit and relax. Get your mind blown away, ain't no skipping a track. Have you paying more attention, no listening gap. Get everything I ever wanted, no giving it back.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I'm your host, the hardest part of the ring, Kyle Bird. How's everybody doing today? Having a lovely bump day, I hope. Spreading the good word. Hope you're wishing everybody you see a happy bump day as well. And if they look at you confused, strike them. Strike them about the face with your fists or your feet, I guess, or really just anything really. So we got some Progress Wrestling talk about today. Chapter 30, a little mile marker for the bumpers out there for the Apron Bump. Chapter 30, also a 2-night extravaganza. This chapter is because we got some Super Strong Style 16 on the way. That's right, folks. The second iteration of this yearly tournament that Progress does, where they bring talent from all over the world. So you're going to see some very familiar faces. You're going to see some other faces that are just popping up here in Progress for the first time that go on to have more success in the UK scene or beyond. So I won't dilly-daddle too long here because we got 2 nights of action. Lots to cover. Lots of awesome wrestling. Some not so good stuff too, but also just in general, just a golden era for Progress Wrestling as far as I can tell. So lots of good stuff here. We got, of course, the tournament from start to finish. We're going to cover 16 guys. We got the tag team titles are also on the line. We got street fights. We got rap battles. We got finger blasting. We got a lot of stuff going on here, so we might as well get right to it. But first, let me give a big old gay shout out to my guest, Ross, from the Wrestling Should Be Fun podcast. Great group of guys over there at Wrestling Should Be Fun. You could find them on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, what have you. All of that is in the information below. Probably definitely one of the best follows on social media, but also a hilarious wrestling podcast. Go check out the Wrestling Should Be Fun podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. They cover of course, any of the major scuttlebutt in the wrestling world, but they delve a lot into the British UK scene as well. They do some retro stuff. They do some games. They do some debates. They do a lot of stuff over there. It's always a fun time. I've been on it. I know that doesn't say much, but I've been on it. So go check it out. The Wrestling Should Be Fun podcast. Great group of lads across the pond. What else? Apron Bump, at Apron Bump, all over the social medias. Go follow me. Go sub to me. Or dom me. You know, whatever you prefer. I am Verse. Apronbump.com for all my episodes, all that she is knit. Hey, Progress Wrestling. A lot of you might not be too familiar with Progress Wrestling. Don't worry. Neither am I. Well, I'm working my way through this in real time, just as you can if you would like to journey along the way with me. And you can go to apronbump.com. You can go to the episodes tab at the top And you could select Progress Wrestling, and that'll bring you to all of the Progress reviews that I've done in chronological order, starting at Chapter 1 and working my way downtown, walking fast, faces past, and I'm homebound, all the way to Chapter 30, which is where we're at now. Go binge away. It's always a good old time. Love watching Progress, love talking about it. And I love you. And I also love this episode coming at you. Progress Wrestling, Chapter 30, with myself and Ross from the Wrestling Should Be Fun podcast. You know, just different strokes for different folks, I guess.
That is fair.
How's is it Qatar or Cater?
Qatar, yeah.
Qatar.
Well,
how's Qatar treating you?
Yeah, it's a strange old place.
Good, bad, a little both.
So it's like beautiful and clean, and the service here is amazing. But I feel like a bit like I'm on the Truman Show, and like underneath it all, there's like something going on.
Yeah, because you're used to London where there's no sun and the food's shit, and you're like, wow, well, there's this all delicious food and sunlight. Yeah. It's just like a different universe, right?
I did my first grocery shop last week, and I went to start putting my stuff onto the belt, and some guy was like, no, that's my job. And then you go to pack your bags, and they're like, that's my job. It's a different world out here, man.
You just dropped a stone on your head, and then off you went, right? That's my image of Qatar. I don't know about you. You said you're there for work.
Yeah. But all good, man. All good. Out here for 6 months at least, and see how it goes.
Nice. How's the wrestling scene out there?
Pretty wild.
the QWA or whatever, huh?
Yeah, keep it quiet, but there's talk that the big man D'Lo Brown might be coming down.
Ooh, okay. I'll book my plane ticket now. Watch out.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So yeah. Do you think can he still do that? I know he's like wow, I just got dizzy just doing that like twice. I don't know how he did that.
I feel like D'Lo Brown was in the wrong era, because imagine how well his old head would sell. Those like Funko Pops, perfect for him, right?
Ooh, well, they can still make them, right? There's got to be a D'Lo Funko out there, right? Somewhere.
They can make them, but will they sell them?
They'll sell at least one. Let me tell you. Well, man. Well, no D'Lo Brown on this show, unfortunately, or these two shows. Super Strong Style 16, man. So you got a chance to check her out?
I did. Yeah, I must admit that this is real my sweet spot of Progress Wrestling.
Yeah.
In terms of fandom, so this was my second Super Strong Style. This was the show where it really started to come together for Progress Wrestling. You can really tell from the crowd reactions and the size of the crowd and the people on the show that no longer was it the UK and independents that were doing their thing and doing it for themselves. Suddenly North America started to wise up to what Progress Wrestling were doing, and the amount of people that came over from North America on that show and proved themselves to be more than capable of wrestling in the Progress style and in that electric ballroom. It was a magical thing, and there's plenty of tales from this chapter. Just watching on Progress Plus, how well the crowd react to certain things. In particular, the Chris Hero matches. There's some moments where I got goosebumps watching it back, and I got all nostalgic and teary-eyed thinking back to those days.
Dude, yeah, there was some Chris Hero. If I had to pick an MVP of these two shows, this chapter, Chris Hero would definitely be in that conversation, because man, he showed out. I forgot how good he was, man. It's just even
it's a really
at this point of his career.
It's a really interesting time for Chris Hero, because at the time he'd just been released by NXT, and obviously had the really fun feud with William Regal at the time. But for whatever reason, it didn't seem to catch on with the higher ups, and he got released. Then he went on to the Indies back with PWG, obviously, and Ring of Honor, and put on a bit of weight. And some people started to take the piss out of him. But actually, I love his body type here. I'm a big fan of those sorts of like Stan Hansen type bodies in wrestling, and I think he looked bloody great. And when he went back to NXT and they made him wear the basketball top, it didn't quite look the same.
No, I'd rather see a gut than a stupid basketball jersey, personally, when you're wrestling in the ring. But yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, we'll talk more about him a lot later. But yeah, it was like, I mean, I had when he took his shirt off, I was like, oh yeah, we're in this period of Chris Hero. But then when the bell rang, instantly forgot about it, and then got very used to it. And like I said, he showed out, man. But you brought up PWG, and I was going to bring up because 16 Karat is the second time they have done this, and I'm curious as to what you think as far as how this, because I know they still do the super strong style. How would you say this compares to like the Bola, the 16 Karat in terms of like, I don't know, the quality or just like how prominent it is in wrestling?
Well, I'm coming at it from a very in a bubble, because I must admit I've never watched a 16 Karat and I've never watched a Bola.
Really?
But I know what they both are. But Super Strong Style 16, from the very first one where Will Ospreay won the tournament, it felt special, and the second one upped it, in my opinion, on overall showing. Maybe definitely the final didn't quite match up to last year's final.
Yeah,
but I think that there's reasons for that we'll go into later. But in terms of how it holds up, I think the fact that it's in the same conversation as those tournaments and started later, I think it's proof that it's been a success. Yeah,
just in their second iteration of it is super impressive. And yeah, I've watched, as far as 16 Karat, I've watched the 2014, 15, and 16. The 16 one was like a month or two before this one.
Right.
It's interesting because, I mean, the 16 Karat and 16 had Will Ospreay, had Zack Sabre Jr. It's like, they're almost like one and the same kind of. It's very fluid how people would move back and forth. So I didn't really see many differences personally, but I mean, I thought this blew the 16 Karat out of the water personally. But lots of good shit to talk about here. You brought up like how the finals was kind of like it didn't reach the quality maybe of the previous year, but this year particularly, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It felt more grueling. Like it felt like, maybe it's just because I watched it in like 2 sittings, like one night, and I should have maybe split it up a little bit, maybe had my intermission myself. But by the time the finals was on, I was like, God damn, just can we not can we end this? But I was like, man, I can't wait for somebody to win here.
And I think that the Mark Andrews journey helps that, because obviously he had to wrestle 4 matches over 2 nights, sorry. So it kind of feels more grueling in that way. And obviously, I don't think Mark Andrews was supposed to be in the final. Unfortunately, with what happened with Mark Haskins after night 1, but boy did he do a good job. And if it was down to me to book who do we put in the final after what happened to Haskins based on night 1, Andrews is your man, because Andrews, wow, that match on night 1. I'm going to say it, hot take, favorite ever Progress match.
I had that almost exact note in my notes, or at least up to this point. I mean, you have obviously the catalog after this, but definitely for me, up to this point, probably the best Progress match ever. It's there's arguments, but it's definitely up there.
Yeah.
But we might as well dig into it, man. We got a lot of matches. This might be a little bit more rapid fire than typically, but please feel free to delve inside me as much as you need to. So, I mean, into the show. What? So
are we on the Smacking It Raw podcast?
It'll be on Pornhub, that's for sure. So you said you were here, by the way, for this live.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Because Jim Smallman opens up basically saying that there was a delay in delivering the ring. Do you remember this at all?
I do, yeah. So there was a lot of excitement, obviously, for this show, and Progress fans get made fun of quite a bit from outsiders and some insiders for how early they queue up. So let's say doors open at 2. The queue at the Electric Ballroom starts at like 10 a.m. And yeah, some people just find it ludicrous that people do that, and they poke fun at them for it. And the fact that the ring didn't show up meant that obviously 10 a.m. was a long wait for these people.
So you were there like in line more so than the actual show, basically.
Well, we're not queuers. The wrestling should be fun, boys. We go to the Good Mixer around the corner, which is a pub. So we go and then we head straight in for bell time. We're not queuing.
Didn't you do like a beer pong event at one point in the queue? We
did, although it was controversial because Big Dom introduced a catch rule. So if you catch the ball, then that counts as a cup. And that's not a very British rule. And
what?
People did not like it. People did not like it.
We're going to have to talk to Dom about that. That shit's ludicrous. I don't know what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah.
But show finally gets underway. And it starts off hot. I feel like with that delay, maybe because to me, it felt like every goddamn match during this weekend had like a hot start. Like, there's like a Pearl Harbor job or just like a quick, like sprint at each other in the beginning. But whatever it is, I'm all for it, I guess. But we got a first round match here. This first night's full of first round matches. And we got Mark Haskins versus Pete Dunne to open up the Bruiserweight. Pete Dunne, a fairly new moniker for him. No longer Dynamite Pete Dunne or the Unstoppable Pete Dunne. He's got his top knot. He's got his singlet. I mean, it was like overnight. I felt like he like switched gears and he's just in full Bruiserweight mode here. So it's awesome to see. Facing Mark Haskins, who going into this, because obviously I didn't know who won this. Mark Haskins was the guy that I thought was going to win this easily. I still think maybe that could have been the plan. More on that later, but I mean, he basically called his shot at the previous chapter, and I mean, him and Marty Scurll have unfinished business where Marty Brian Pillmaned his arm or his leg, I forget which one it was, in front of his family. So they got a story there, but again, more on that later. But this match here, Haskins and Dunne, I thought it was a really high paced, fun match here. Pete Dunne's countering all of Haskins' offense, like that roll through into a sharpshooter is always beautiful. Towards the end, Pete Dunne goes for the bitter end, but Mark counters it beautifully into a DDT, hits a German, goes for a brainbuster, but Pete counters that, hits the X-Plex, but Mark Haskins lands on his feet and then locks in the bridging arm bar for the tap out. So Haskins wins against Pete Dunne. Yeah, I thought it was a really good opener here.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I know that we spoke about a Haskins versus Skrull match not too long ago on one of your videos, and this kind of reminded me of those two wrestlers, similar stature, similar styles, meshed really well. Loved it, and what I loved as well is that Pete Dunne, obviously, as you say, was a bit of a bland character when he was Dynamite Dunne, and then we saw the metamorphosis of him into Bruiserweight, and here is where he's really starting to crank it up. The character work that he does with the crowd is brilliant because Haskins is so locked into his wrestling that he doesn't really react to the crowd, but the crowd love him anyway. So it doesn't really matter for him to pander at all. Whereas Pete Dunne was pandering to the crowd so much in this match, and it worked for his character so well. Really hammed up when everyone was saying that he was wearing his mum's swimming costume.
The crowd was in form on this one.
I absolutely loved it. And as you say, the finish was great with the slide out of the bitter end and then into that the Ciampa armbar that is actually the Haskins armbar. We know it is, but no one else knows it is.
Secret safe with me. But yeah, man, good stuff here. Yeah, Pete Dunne, he has like that in-ring charisma that like Bryan Danielson has. Like Pete Dunne, you don't think of as like a charismatic guy, but man, he does in the ring. His facials, just the way he'll like look into the crowd, and you're just like, oh, fuck you, man. Who are you looking at? I think it's just that British kind of resting Brit face.
Resting Brit
bitch face. That's something. That's something. We're having fun. But boy, howdy, couple resting Brit faces here. We got Mikey Whiplash versus Damon Moser in our next Super Strong Style 16 match. Question, who has a worse theme between both these guys? They're both at the bottom, I think.
Oh, I don't know, mate. Placebo's version of Kate Bush, for me, is up there. I'm a big fan of that.
I think that's Whiplash's music, right?
Yeah.
Or is it? Oh, yeah, okay. That's I thought it fit his character very well. It was just very like I guess it's a good one because it made me feel weird. It just made me feel uncomfortable, like watching him come out with his mask and his thigh highs.
Yeah,
It's very.
he's like
yeah.
he's like BDSM goth, murderous. He's like he's everything that kind of song gives you. So I actually love it. The Moser one, it's fine, but I will have to say that Damon Moser, someone who I think is actually really underrated, and I absolutely loved in this match that it was only like 4 or 5 minutes that this match it was a real sprint, but Moser did the Cactus Jack elbow drop onto concrete, which was stupid but also great. And he did like a lot of like fun, like he was also doing like the go-to move, the move that I can never pronounce. It's like the uki.
Which one? Ushigoroshi.
Like, yeah, Ushigoroshi. Love that move. Then obviously Whiplash has got great heat because of what he did to Tommy End in the previous chapters. Mm-hmm. And Moser was playing off that. And then Moser got a nice round of applause at the end. So I was really happy with that because Moser is someone that's kind of been left behind in the British wrestling scene for whatever reason that is. But I loved watching this back because I think he's actually a pretty decent worker. And he was just maybe in like a different era where there wasn't so many generational talents around. He would have been a pretty steady hand in British wrestling.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, he's popping up here straight out of the Projo in an era with just, you got Gunther here, you got, all these guys that would go on to be huge in the wrestling scene and just maybe got lost in the shuffle. Or maybe it's just because he has no shoulders, which is maybe, I don't know, maybe get some shoulders. I mean, he's like a big, tall, lanky, looks like Gumby. But no, I agree. I liked his work here, especially in his presence in the main event. I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But like you said, pretty quick match here, and we're fresh off of the previous chapter where the main event was Marty Scurll versus Tommy End for the world title. Mikey Whiplash cost Tommy End that match, so like you said, he had huge heat. So, and I'm assuming we're building to a match between Tommy End and Mikey Whiplash. So to build up Whiplash here, make him look strong, pretty significant, or a pretty not dominant victory, but a solid victory over Damon Moser here. Death Valley Driver, I think it is, for the win after like a double power bomb. The Chris Jericho, that's who I associated with the double power bomb. But Damon Moser, I think, looked good in defeat as represented by the round of applause that he got after the fact. So Whiplash wins and he moves on. So all's well that ends well, I guess. And you said you were not happy when Whiplash cost Tommy End the match.
Oh my gosh!
At the previous chapter,
I was such a huge Tommy End fan. I'm still a big fan of him, but like I still don't quite have the feelings towards him that I used to have. I'm a bit of a bitter ex-lover. I'm a bit of a Roderick Strong in a net brace.
Adam.
But obviously at the time I wasn't really in tune with ICW and things like that, so I didn't really know about Mikey Whiplash as a character. I thought that Michael Gilbert was just his normal character. So
right.
I had no idea.
That was my introduction to him too. So
I had no idea that Mikey Whiplash and Michael Gilbert were even different people. And then when someone told me at the pub afterwards, I was like, oh, like it's such a different character to Michael Gilbert. I was like, what?
He came in to Progress as Michael Gilbert. Is like, I don't need these gimmicks, or however he talks. And then he's like, oh, wait, maybe I do. Let me put on these pantyhose. And it is what it is. But let me ask you a question. What is everybody's obsession with the movie Back to the Future?
Asking the wrong person here, mate. Another hot take. I've never seen it. Never seen it.
You know what? I saw it for the first time like a year ago. I already forgot everything that happened. So it didn't leave a lasting impression on me. So I would say you're probably good to avoid it. But
I would say that a wrestler choosing that as their kind of like gimmick to a crowd that were probably teenagers / young children at that time, wise move. I reckon that the nostalgia of that will get you over as a babyface, and he was over here, wasn't he?
It worked. When Kenny Williams was announced at 200 gigawatts or whatever the hell it was, the crowd ate it up like they just saw a title change. Man, Kenny Williams here, making his Progress debut. I think he was at a download festival.
Yeah,
maybe
so it
like
was a
a
chapter
year or
debut
whatever.
for him, yeah.
Right. So yeah, proper debut for Kenny Williams here, going up against Zack Gibson. We talked about Pete Dunne kind of coming into his own. You could see Zack Gibson transitioning into like what he would end up being. He just needs that goatee. But he cuts promos before all the matches he has on this weekend. He's doing the soon to be recognized like that thing. So it's like, man, I'm so happy we're like getting him coming into his own here. Great heat, arguably more heat than anybody else in the company at this point, I think. Maybe just people just hate Liverpool, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I must admit, at the time, I was fully on board with like absolutely hating him because he was so Liverpool. But looking back, like, I don't know if it watches great.
Yeah, well, times change, I guess. But so the Bollocks, is that what Kenny's nickname is here?
Yeah, so he's the Bollocks, which is like a British version of saying that I'm the shit.
Oh, okay. So I've heard Bollocks in the context of like bullshit, like it's a bunch of bollocks. So he's bullshit.
So Bollocks is actually literally balls. It's Bollocks is testicles.
He's balls. He's testicles. Bollocks Mahoney. Huh?
He's Bollocks Mahoney. Yeah. Yeah. So, but there's also a different saying, which is "I am the bollocks." So it's like saying "I am the bee's knees." I am the shit.
Interesting. I still don't like it, but I think I understand it a little more. I mean, it's pretty much just white Kushida here. A little bit of, like if Kushida and Orange Cassidy had a baby, that's what Kenny Williams is here.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that.
You could do a lot worse. But another hot start here. Kenny's coming out hot with all the high flying stuff. He goes for a suicide dive, but Zack catches him and does this arm wrench and sends him face first into the wooden floor, which just looked gnarly. You got Gibson pretty much, he works the arm a lot of this match. Hits but then Kenny fights back. Second rope cutter for a 2 count. And then Kenny's able to finally connect with that suicide dive and transitions into a DDT on the floor. But ultimately, Zack's cunning gets the better here because he pulls the ref in front of him in the ring, distracts Kenny, and is able to throw Kenny's shoulder first into the ring post and locks in the Shankly gates for the tap out. And he told him before the match, word for word, gonna drop you on the dick and rip your arm back, like all that stuff, right? How Liverpool people talk. So
I must admit, that's possibly the worst Scouse accent I've ever heard. I love it.
I had it earlier. I need to like hear him for a second. I need to like tune my brain. Pull your arm back. I can't do it on the spot. Is that what a Scouse is, by the way? Like someone from Liverpool?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. He called himself a Scouser later in the show, I think. And I was like, what?
I love this idea of you just kind of noting down all these words and being like, I'll ask Ross later.
I need you to hold my hand and pull me through this because it's a lot. It's a lot. But I enjoyed this match for what it was, man. What about you?
Yeah, loved it. Big Kenny Williams fan. Here, he hasn't quite reached the level that he later did in NXT UK, in my opinion. I think his NXT UK run was fantastic, and specifically when he started to do the fake babyface thing with Ahmed Jordan, where it was like the Lex Luger and Sting thing, where he was clearly pissed off with Ahmed Jordan, but it took like 8 weeks for him to finally turn on him. But there was that everything's great, but really that he had that look in his eyes, like I'm gonna kill you. Loved it, absolutely loved it. But here, it didn't quite hit those heights, but I thought that this was great. Something that was mentioned to me actually at this very show from my friend Shaf was that he felt that at this time in Progress, Zack Gibson, because so many wrestlers in the British scene were that kind of like 5'10" cruiserweight, middleweight hybrid, Zack Gibson actually stands out a fair bit because he's tall, he's broad, he looks like what a Vince McMahon wrestler would be, I guess. Even though Vince will probably think he's too small. But he had the argument that he's too giving in the ring, that he probably gives away too much. And part of me in this match triggered that, where like he's always the butt of the joke in a match. He always takes these like silly things that he has to like get wrapped up in that like ball and then get kicked up the arse and all this and like all that sort of stuff. Whereas he never really wrestles like he's 6'2" in these matches.
Right.
Like he's such a technical wrestler, and like sometimes I do agree with that sentiment from my friend, but like at the same time, he just is a chicken shit heel, even though he's bigger than everyone else. So it kind of works.
Yeah, maybe that's just the product of where he is. Because like that he was in a Thunder Bastard match, a month or two before this, and he towered over everybody except Rampage. But he had like Marty in there, he had Ospreay and Haskins. Like, yeah, Gibson's like a big boy.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe that's just his forte. Maybe he's the technical wrestling maybe makes him stand out more. Especially, I mean, in this era of the Atlas title getting underway, and you got big tasty fuckers all over the place. Maybe he just opted
and he's kind of in the middle of both, isn't he?
Yeah, which I mean, 205. We will. Is that the next match? The Atlas? No, it's a little bit later. But yeah, 205. We'll get to that. We'll get to Atlas talk later. We got to first talk about TK Cooper, the South Pacific. What's their deal? Him and Dahlia, South Pacific
Power couple that later became the South Pacific Power Trip in a faction. Yeah.
I like it. Well, he's taking on Jack Gallagher here in the next tournament match. So we got so Jack Gallagher at this point's blowing up. He's already qualified for the Cruiserweight Classic that WWE is putting on. So the collaboration between Progress and WWE, obviously huge. And especially that he's who they sent as a representation of their company, big time. The crowd's loving him. I mean, with the silly music and the goofy trunks and the stupid mustache, the Nigel Thornberry references. I mean, it all works, and he's a great wrestler on top of that. So, and then you got TK Cooper. So, coming out here in the looks like pajama pants with the 100 emoji all over him.
Keep it 100.
You strike me as a big TK Cooper fan.
Yeah. So, full disclosure. Me and the Wrestling Should Be Fun boys probably count TK Cooper and Chuck Mambo as like our closest confidants in the wrestling world.
Oh.
They're just two great lads, and I'm gonna wax lyrical about him. So feel free to balance it out if you so wish.
No, I do. I mean, he's it's like him and Dahlia Black, who are mates, I guess, at this point. Well, not mates. You guys use mates differently. They're coitus buddies, I guess. They're basically making love on the way to the ring, which is their thing. Which, by the way, I mean, look, if their goal is to make me hate them, it's working because they're so obnoxious with it.
How good is it when TK has his eyes open and is tonguing Dahlia Black? It's so good. It's so like, who are you and why you're on my TV? I want to punch you so bad.
It's rough, man. I don't know. The dynamic between them kind of in a way reminds me of like a Mark Mero Sable deal where at this point, at least, it feels like Dahlia is kind of the star of the show. Maybe that changes as time goes on. But I think it works. It's good heat. And then Jack Gallagher kind of takes advantage of their flirting and whatnot. But I thought the match did what it tickled my pickle, I guess. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I actually made the note watching this back that I'm actually kind of surprised that TK Cooper wasn't picked up. I don't know what the reason was politically or any other reason that TK Cooper wasn't picked up, because to me, his character, especially at this point, it's so American pro wrestling. He's basically Ricky Starks previous to Ricky Starks being in pro wrestling. He's cocky. He's brash. He's got the piece by his side. It's like wrestling 101. And Jack Gallagher is actually quite a niche British character.
Right.
Like I'm surprised that they went with Jack over someone like TK. When you think about American pro wrestling, I feel like TK fits that style a lot better than Jack does.
Well, I think for the Cruiserweight Classic and how every country is represented, I think they maybe want to get the most cartoonishly like a caricature of that country, maybe.
Yeah,
so they'll
perhaps,
send
yeah.
Jack Gallagher and then the guy Zack Sabre who has the Union Jack on his jacket.
Yes,
you know,
yeah.
so really drive it home.
But yeah, I absolutely love this, and I loved the finish. Was TK was on top, and then rather than taking advantage, he was looking at Dahlia, being like, "Look what I'm about to do," and then look back, and then got drop kicked to fuck.
Ooh, man. Stiff City, man. That was hilarious finish. I mean, they're blowing kisses, they're canoodling, and you see a boot come out of frame, clips them in the jaw.
It was very Sheamus, AJ Lee, Daniel Bryan, wasn't it?
That's a good call. It's almost identical to what it was. But loved it. I mean, I didn't love that as much as the TK Pooper chant, which I thought was fun. You probably started that one, right?
Yeah, that was the childish one.
Right. Oh, by the way, I gotta make note. You know, so TK comes out for his entrance, and Jack comes out. And he's like doing his dance in the ring. He's ready for the music cue for everybody to go. Whoa! What's the song called?
Oh, I don't know what the song is called.
Like everybody,
yeah.
And then it like crescendos, and then he's about to like pose to the crowd, but TK Pearl Harbors him before he can do it, and then he like attacks him before the bell. But then Jim Smallman doesn't care, so he just like continues his ring introductions, and they ring the bell, and then like Jack Gallagher locks him in an Achilles lock, like right at the bell. So it was like really fun bookends to this match, but yeah, it was pretty good.
So at this point, TK Cooper was quite well known for his like underhand Pearl Harbor jobs. And there was one chapter, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but Dahlia was wrestling and he tweeted a picture of his fist and was like, I'm about to hit Tony Storm with this. Then came out, did it, punched her in the face. They went backstage and tweeted underneath it saying like, "I told you so."
That's phenomenal. That reminds me. It was like 98, 99 WWF. It was on Raw or SmackDown, one of the two. Edge and Christian came out like as a guest commentators during a match, and Edge was like, "Yeah, we're gonna do some commentary, and then we're gonna do a run-in." And then they did a run-in. So funny. That's hilarious. Somebody needs TK. We need to bring TK over here, man. He needs to be doing something
for sure.
But we're back at the big tasty fuckers. We got a double tournament match here. We got it's the first round of the super strong style, but it's also a part of the Atlas Championship round robin tournament. Block A represented here. So the Atlas Championship. Now maybe it's evolved over time, but as at this point, it's the weight limit is 205 and up, which to me it does not sound like a big tasty fuckers championship. Like I'm in this division. You know what I mean? So,
but as I said, the British and European wrestling scene full of little cruiserweights, full of little flippy dudes. So this was just an opportunity to get those big beefy guys back in because the style of the day was very cruiserweight, middleweight, and I think this was a way to get those wrestlers on the card because for whatever reason, you know, Styx isn't getting booked anymore, which was a shame.
Where is Styx at?
I think he's just, you know, working out. I think he does a bit of training.
Maybe look, he's still jacked to this day, so he's doing something right.
He's a big boy.
He's a big beefy boy. Well, we got so the Atlas tournament. So they're all 15-minute time limit matches. You get a point for a win, 0 for a draw, or whatever it is. But it might be 2 points for a win, whatever the case is. So basically, here, if there's no fall by 15 minutes, then it's considered a draw for the Atlas tournament. But the match will still continue for the purposes of the Super Strong Style 60, which I thought was a funny bit of admin they had to do, but it worked. Yeah. I don't think it went 15 minutes either way. I mean, it's Dave Mastiff versus Walter. This ain't going 15 minutes. This might be a top 3 match for me from this tournament. We'll see as we go along here, but I enjoyed the dynamic here. You got Mastiff is full origin, full dickhead. You got Walter, Big Daddy Walter coming in here, who is still on the come up. He's still very much new to Progress. I think it's only like his 4th or 5th
Yes.
match, and he at this point he still has not gotten a win, which is crazy because in WXW and stuff he's like this dominant world beater, and here it's a different universe. And Walter even lost his last Atlas title match against Tyson T-Bone, which just seems weird to me. It's big lads wrestling, man. What'd you make of it?
Yeah, I loved it. It's so interesting watching Walter matches back from this era, because obviously it's a bit like a band that get big, and you've got those people that will refuse to say that the later albums are any good and that the first two albums are the only two good albums.
Right.
And you're going to get people like that with Walter because they were there for when he was bigger and he had a presence and etc. etc. I think that's absolute nonsense, and I think that what he's done with his body of work and his literal body since leaving for America has been incredible. But there's something special about these matches that are just like, you can just tell that there's something in Walter that you can just tell is about to break out. You can't quite put your finger on it because the matches don't quite hit how they do even like 6 months, a year later. But there's just something about him, isn't there? There's there's a presence about him, and the fact that this is his first ever win in Progress is quite cool. That we just watched this, because obviously, so weird to have him not win matches. What is it? 2 years that he's not lost a match. And Dave Mastiff is perfect for him because weirdly he's kind of bigger. He's definitely wider than him. He's just an absolute beast of a boy as well. And the fact that he's heel here as well, I think really works because he got to play the underhand stuff. And I think Mastiff's better as a heel personally.
I would agree.
Unfortunately, we didn't really get to see that on NXT UK, which was a bit of a shame. They kept him as a face pretty much throughout. But yeah, I absolutely love this match. It's exactly what you expect Walter versus Mastiff to be. And I'm a little bit surprised that it's top 3 for you, but I'm not going to argue with you because I loved it as well.
Top 5 maybe is more fair, but I think it surprised me how much I like this match because at this point Walter, like his Progress matches, like they hadn't really hit for me, but this one I feel like there was just like an energy about it. Maybe it's just the opposite, the opposing big man also, and then the fact that they were both like trying to body slam each other, like all the classic big lads wrestling type stuff. And there was like a little bit more high flying by both guys than normal.
I think the match a few chapters previous where they broke the ring with Rampage helped a lot for Walter.
Yeah.
It made Walter feel like a big deal.
I think that sparked his feuds. And I think this one was, this weekend in totality, I think was kind of a breakout for Walter for sure.
Yeah.
In Progress. But yeah, ultimately, and they do the superplex Mastiff to Walter, and you had to fear the ring was going to collapse underneath itself.
Yeah, it's not a big ring.
And I'm sure they had to rush to put it together. It's probably just held together with rubber bands and shit. But I guess it was put together right. So
there's not much of a bigger test than that is there to be fair?
No, not at all. But a fun combination here to finish. Walter hits Mastiff with a German suplex, a big old lariat, and then just like a bulldog choke for the tap out. So Walter gets the win here. Finish. Yeah. Walter just kind of grabs people and squeezes them until they taps out. That's what I like about him. But yeah, it's weird that this is like an upset. Now, like you said, Gunther now is just the most dominant IC champion of all time. He's coming out on Raw with a suit and pyro, and here he's just in his hoodie, like doop boop ba doop ba doop, coming out like good-natured Walter stinks, kind of. But like when he's in the ring, it was awesome.
Also, coming out to the band Drive By Truckers is just weird.
Yeah, it's okay. I'd never really cared to look into it, but it's
always kind of like southern gritty rock and roll. It just doesn't fit him at all, but.
It's like he's pulling up in a pickup truck with, some natty lights or whatever the hell. But whatever, man. Whatever floats your boat, Gunther or Walter, Big Daddy Walter. But boy, that brings us to my match of the weekend for sure. Chris Hero versus Mark Andrews. So, there's a lot to say about this, but I thought, Chris Hero comes in here. I was kind of. Because like you said, I think this is in between his 2 runs in WWE, right? Yeah. So I was interested to see like what would be the reception of him and like how he would be kind of perceive? Like, would he be like, oh, I'm back here on the Indies, everybody cheer for me? But in reality, he's like a dick. Like, he's like up against Mark Andrews here. He kind of treats Andrews like he doesn't belong. Like, he spits in his hand before the handshake.
Yeah.
By the way, if I were to spit in my hand and offer my hand to you, would you shake it?
You're British. You have to do it.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. It's a cultural difference. Because I've seen that, right? And like WWE or whatever, people like look and then put their hand out, and the other guy's like, I'm not shaking that. But Mark Andrews here is like, all right. And then they shake. And
when you're British, we've got these weird social rules, and you can't trump having your hand shaken. That's why the British guys always did the best in ROH, because of the handshake.
Right. Code of honor must be applied. I get it. But yeah, I love the vibe of this match. I mean, would you agree that this is probably the match of this chapter?
Yeah, as I said, I think it's my favorite Progress match of all time.
Right.
It was just a special atmosphere. Chris Hero arrived at a time when he was killing it on the American indie scene back from NXT. It was such an exciting signing that Progress brought in for Super Strong Style 16. I think he was probably the big net. Like, there were some big names on it elsewhere, but Hero was the last announced, and it was a big, holy shit, they've got Chris Hero. And then the fact that they put him up against Andrews, I absolutely love, because so many people would have wanted him to go against just all the big guys, put him against Rampage, put him against Volta, which they did, but they would have kind of kept him at that kind of big meaty level. And I love the fact that they put him up against Andrews, because it's something that I think is underrated in wrestling, where you've got a big guy and a small guy. Like, some of my favorite matches are stupid matches like Rey Mysterio and Nash from like 99. Like, there's just something in the dynamic of a huge guy getting the shit beaten out of him. Like, I get that people like to see two meaty guys chopping each other, but there's something even more almost visceral about seeing someone so much smaller than them getting kicked in the head. And some of the strikes that Hero did on in this match on Andrews, and Andrews didn't even have to sell them. He was just taking them. Like, unbelievable. I absolutely loved it. Andrews is one of the best in not just British wrestling, but in wrestling, in my opinion, to fight from underneath. He's such a plucky character. You love him. He's just like a lovable, likable bloke. And he's got heart, and but like some people, you can see through the facade, and you're like, yeah, of course they're going to, this is the point where they ask the crowd to clap along, or they're going to ask the crowd. Like, his just feels organic. Genuine. It feels genuine. And as you say, Hero here was playing the bully, and he was playing it superbly. And Andrews was playing the what's the word? The underdog. Fantastically well. So it was just absolutely perfect. And I was amazed when I heard that this was their first ever match. If this was their first ever match,
really?
What are they doing by not having more matches? Good Lord. So good. The kickouts in this match.
Dude.
I get a bit annoyed at kickouts sometimes in wrestling, but these all felt genuine, as you said about Andrews in general. And the crowd reaction to the like sit-up pile driver in particular, where he hooked his arms underneath his big thighs. Unbelievable. And then Andrews managed to get 2.9 as well, I think, that people bit on as well, which was great as well. So yeah, just whoever put this match together, whether it was someone in the back or just these two by themselves, big round of applause. And it's a match that I go back and watch probably once a year, because I just love it. And there's something about that ballroom crowd when they're hyped. It's just a special place. And for these 10 minutes, it just felt like an amazing match. And it was great because as well, the first 2 minutes, it just felt like another first round match. And it just kind of out of nowhere, it just became this, like something just clicked, and people could see it, and people felt it, and it was real. And yeah, I loved it.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, the crowd, this is the most, I mean, that's really the litmus test of how good a wrestling match is, I feel like, is how invested the crowd is. And I don't think they're more invested in anything than the ending stretch of this match. So
yeah,
And I mean, I was watching this, man, and I mean, wrestling doesn't often like bring noise out of me, like like on kickouts and like some of the strikes. But man, I was like yelping like a dog watching this. There was some like, because obviously Hero, you know where you're getting with him. You're getting the stiff elbows and the forearms, the boots. There was one spot in particular. It was kind of like an under the radar thing, but like Andrews hits the ropes. And just the way the camera's like zoomed in on just Andrews, and you just see this boot come from out of frame and just clobber him just with the opposite momentum. It was just brutal. All of the discus elbows, the roaring elbows. Andrews, to your point, was super resilient in this one. Andrews hits a poison Rana at some point for a 2 count. That might be the one you're referring to. Hero hits that pile driver you mentioned. Yeah, I don't know what you call it, but he like tucks the arms under his legs so that I don't know what that adds to it, but it makes it look. Cause I thought he was gonna go for like a Styles Clash or something, but then he just drops straight down. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But that doesn't get it done. Andrews goes for, I like when Andrews goes for like a dragon suplex, but then Hero like slaps his arms down. And he's like, you're not suplexing me. So he like gets him off of him, but then Andrews comes back and eventually does do it, drops him on his head, trading strikes, both these guys. And then Andrews goes for a shooting star press, but Hero catches him in a cravat and suplexes him out of this cravat and then hits a rolling elbow. And I'm like, well, that's got to be it. Nope. 2 count. And Hero's like, well, fuck you, man. He just picks him up. Scoop pile driver, like a tombstone, but like a quick version of it, and that gets the win. So it's very like the way it like he like slowly kind of put him down. I thought was really dramatic, and I thought the crowd was with it. I was with it. The drama was there. The impact was there. Yeah, definitely awesome match. Anybody, if you're gonna watch one match from this show, anybody listening, this is the one for sure.
Yeah, and props to Mark Andrews in 2023 as well with his Summer of Subculture with Danny Luna and Morgan Webster in Impact Wrestling and becoming tag team champions there. Super cool just to see him still doing his thing because he's so underrated just in general, I think.
Right. Yeah, him and Flash. Are they still the Impact champions?
No, they lost to the Rascals, I think. But still, like, great that they put the belts on them and like they held their own. It seemed as if they got really over there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, after that, how do you follow that? Well, with some Lucha Underground, we got Son of Havoc versus Jeremiah Crane here. Did you ever watch Lucha Underground?
So we did a bit of it for Wrestling Should Be Fun when we used to do the blog, and it's just batshit, wasn't it? Absolute batshit.
Dude, it's just so there's not a lot of wrestlers that I like actively dislike. But Sami Callihan's kind of one of, I don't know what it is. It's his stupid singlet, his spamming of the pump kicks, his I don't know what it is, his face, maybe it's just his face. He looked good in this match here. I mean, the couple matches he had on this chapter, but he's facing off against Matt Cross here, which is crazy the shape this dude is in. Like, what, 20 years into his career probably at this point?
Yeah.
I thought this was a fun sprint of a match. It's a tough ask to follow the previous match, but I thought the way they kind of came out hot right from the gate, like trading suicide dives, which like sounds silly, but it worked for some reason. I thought this was another fun sprint of a match. What'd you make of it?
Yeah, like you're absolutely spot on with they came out here 100 miles per hour, and I get the impression that they were in the back listening to the reaction that Hero and Andrews were getting, and they were like, fuck the plan that we had previously. we're just going to go all out here. It didn't feel like it stopped for breath at any point. This match, they just went out and just gave everything that they had for that crowd to try and stay with them because they knew that it was a tough act to follow. But I thought that they did a fantastic job, and the story of the match was quite interesting as well because obviously they kind of were doing move for move, stride for stride. But at like a net break pace, so it was like just it's a bit of a car crash. But I really enjoyed it, and then I really enjoy as well sometimes in tournaments that you can tell a long term story even in 3 or 4 matches, And I like the fact that Callahan arrived as someone that Progress Wrestling fans either knew of from elsewhere or didn't know of at all. So he kind of came in with like a clean slate, and he didn't act in heel or face way at all. He just wrestled at that breakneck pace. But then by the end, because of the way that he won with the low blow, it sets him up for the heel for the next match. So I thought that was a really smart bit of storytelling.
Yeah. No, that's a good call. And Matt Cross, I mean, he's such a likable guy, really a real pioneer in a lot of ways for that high flying style. I mean, busting out that flagpole elbow. I don't know what you call it, where you like grabs the ring post and hangs horizontal and elbow to the floor. Always awesome to see. Some head spring cutters by Matt Cross. He goes for a shooting star onto Callahan, hits it. But Callahan gets his foot on the rope. Just the way the camera was set up, you like couldn't see his foot, so it was like, what happened? But then he had his foot on the rope. But
yeah, I think that was the first time that I ever saw that head spring that Tyler Bate now does. And
right.
Obviously, Tyler Bate does it into a clothesline, but Cross did it into the cutter. And I watched this live, and I remember just turning to my mate, being like, "That is the maddest thing I've ever seen." Absolutely loved it.
It's like, how's it physically possible? It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so the finish comes when Cross, he goes for like a half and half suplex, but Callahan grabs the ref to rustle his feathers or whatever to distract him, and then Callahan's able to hit a low blow on a Matt Cross and then follows it up with a J driller or whatever he calls it. It's a J driller to me. For the win. So Callahan wins, like you said, essentially establishing that he's a heel, and that'll get furthered on the next night. But yeah, a great way to follow that last match, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. Like because they were in a tough spot.
Yeah, for sure. But the last tournament match of the first night, we got Tommy End versus Rampage Brown. So this match felt like it was all like the vibe of it. Like if it was like two of the most dominant guys in Progress. It's like it wasn't pretty, but there was a lot of fire behind it. Like I don't know, that's just kind of how this one felt. Like the intense stare down during the ring intros, and it starts off with like a hockey fight type thing where it's just a brawl, but Rampage is ultimately able to use his power to kind of get advantage. But what did you think of this one? I was kind of like, because this is the one that like stuck out to me, like when I read it on paper, but I don't know if it really like hit me.
Yeah,
it
so
didn't really resonate with me too much.
I think I read that they only got 7 minutes in this match, and it kind of showed, like, not that every match has to be 15 minutes. You can definitely squeeze in a great match into 7 minutes, but these two I feel warranted more than that, but it is what it is. Like, this could have easily been a chapter main event elsewhere if it wasn't a tournament. But I did quite enjoy the storyline because Rampage lost. They still kept him strong because Rampage was pretty much on top here. It was just the strikes of End were too much, and the way that his body just crumpled on the black mass for this was amazing. I loved this. I love the sell of this, and it was the start of pretty much this tournament was great for Tommy End in general because he obviously won the match because he won the tournament. Spoiler, but not only that, but this tournament kind of made the black mass a thing. Every match, black mass was the kind of like the reason that Tommy End won, and the only shame was that they didn't come up with a name for it at the tournament because they seemed to be putting over the move, but they hadn't figured out what to call it yet.
Oh, so that kick.
So yeah, but I love the idea that you could use a tournament to put over a new move. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because he had been using that move for a while, but it was always just like a setup.
Yeah, it was something else. What was it's like the stomp thing that.
Yeah.
The
Sumerian death stomp. Or something like that. But yeah, and it really, the first time he used it as a finish was against Marty Scurll at the 2 chapters before this, I think.
Yeah, and Scurll sold it great as well.
Yeah, it was like a flash knockout, non-title, unfortunately, and then he did it again the following chapter for the title, and then he had the Mikey Whiplash shit and stuff. But I do like the story here, like you mentioned, Rampage, like he has all of his power moves, the pile driver, the power bombs. But it just takes one kick from Tommy, that black mass, and that's all it takes. And he beat the world champion with it. So Rampage losing to it as well made him look strong because it almost, I don't want to say it was a fluke kick, but it was kind of came out of nowhere, and it's just that's all he needed. So So it was good for what it was. I will say though, I got more to say on the Black Mass in the second night, but I think you know where I'm going with that. But before we get there, we got the main event of night 1 for the Progress Tag Team Shields. We got the Origin, represented by El Ligero and Nathan Cruz, taking on the London Riots. Hey, when are we going to get rid of these stupid fucking shields and just get some belts?
You still got a while, mate. Sorry.
Oh, suck me, dude. Yeah, I do love though. Ligero comes out, he's like shooting it like a machine gun, and he's like surfing on it across the floor. It's stupid. And the Origin, they like corner Jim Smallman in the corner as he's announcing them. Love the Origin. I mean, we could gush about the Origin for days, but this match felt very much like an Attitude Era style match where it's like a lot of brawling, it's a lot of crowd fighting, and then there's a ton of shenanigans towards the final stretch. But ultimately, man, I thought it was a very high note to end the night on. Some people might not like this type of match, but I thought the shenanigans, the referee spots, the interference, I thought it all played perfectly. What'd you think about this?
Yeah, I loved it. Like, I'm an advocate for Progress Wrestling probably being the best storytellers in British wrestling. Shout out to Pro Wrestling Chaos at the moment in Bristol, who are doing a fantastic job with what they do. That's actually ran by Wild Boar and Flash Morgan Webster.
Nice.
They've been putting out some great storylines recently, but back here, Rev Pro was pretty much a dream factory where they would put on probably better matches and matches that you would be like, oh shit, Nakamura's coming or Steen's coming, and it would bring people there, including me. But
I just watched that show the other day, by the way. Continue.
Nice. But this is the place where the stories were. And the fact that they gave this the main event was great because this was a year-long storyline pretty much. And then it ends with the original tag team of Progress, the London Riots, that have never held the gold previously, holding the gold. Is a nice feel-good moment for everyone. I don't know if the balls up finish with the 2 count that was possibly a 3 count hurt or helped the match, because it kind of created this kind of I think
it should have ended there.
It kind of created a chaos that fit the match, so it kind of worked, I think.
Yeah.
But I loved all the, like, as you say, not everyone likes the run-ins and the attitude style storytelling of 3 or 4 people coming in, but if it was every match like Nitro became, I get it. Like it's too much, but when you're telling a story, like, you need these things to happen sometimes, you know, like, and it helped the match, in my opinion. And the crowd reaction for the ref hitting El Ligero was fantastic. And the finish was great. I thought the super pop-up spear finisher looked great as well. So really happy with it. And I think Progress must have been happy with the show overall, because the crowd reactions throughout the night were really, really good. And to end it on a high here, which is, I actually think the pop for this was bigger than ends on day 2, which is pretty wild. But this is obviously people beating the Origin, who people hate. So
it's man. As, like, this style of match, to your point, like, we had just seen 8 work rate, you know, quote unquote style matches. So to end it on like a spectacle like this, I thought was great pacing. But it's like, it's just a bunch of chaos. Like, it's just Ligero and Nathan Cruz representing the team, but you got your Mastiff getting involved. You got Gibson getting involved. They get ejected very early in the match, but they eventually come back. I think Gibson comes back. He like tries to get on the apron. This is as a ref is down, of course, because why wouldn't they be? Gibson gets on the apron, but he gets speared off the apron by, I think, one of the Riots. Mastiff comes in as the other ref is distracted, hits James Davis with a low blow, then hits him with the shield. And that gets a 1-2 kick out, which was a huge pop. I thought it seemed like such a finish to a match, but
and a classic finish for Origin as well. It's like, oh, here we go again.
Yes. The Origin have been booked very strong up to this point. So it doesn't feel like it because there's so much bullshit like associated with them, but they win like everything. So that you know, people are hungry to see them lose finally. So 2 refs get knocked out. Chris Roberts, Paz is his name? So the third ref, which I think they only have 3 refs, Joe Allen, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
He comes out. Ligero, I think, because they get that 2 count. The Origin does. So Ligero's pissed. He pulls Joe Allen out of the ring, grabs him by the neck, throws a right hand, but then Joe Allen blocks it and hits Ligero with one, which is just hilarious.
Some great Hebner shit.
Dude, fantastic. And then the Riots hit their slingshot into a spear on Nathan Cruz. He kicks out at 2, but the bell rings and the music plays. And the ref's like, no, just 2. Crowd's confused, but they hit a second, like, I don't even know what you call it. They tossed him off the second rope, and then the other guy speared him in midair.
It looked great.
Looked great. 1, 2, 3. New tag team champions, the London Riots. Like you said, huge pop. Crowd loved it. Had a very heartfelt speech afterwards. So just a great way to end the show, like you said.
Yeah.
But that brings us to night 2 of chapter 30. We got so Jim Smallman, as he always does, opens the show, and he announces that Mark Haskins, after his match, collapsed from exhaustion and dehydration. So he is unfit to compete tonight. So he will no longer be in this tournament, which, again, it's crazy because I figured he'd be the one to win, but now it just opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah.
What did you think when you heard that announcement?
I was gutted. Massive fan of Mark Haskins. Love seeing him wrestle. I was lucky enough last month to be at the ballroom for the show where he wrestled Kenta.
Right.
And it was fantastic. Ooh. Really, really, really good match. I was really gutted, and I won't go too much into it because I don't want to spoil things for you. But unfortunately for Haskins, this sort of stuff seems to happen to him a fair bit. Like his career seems to be stop-start, whether it be COVID or injury or mental fatigue. He's a wrestler that probably could have accomplished what a lot of his peers did, but for whatever reason didn't quite, which is a shame. But let's not compare apples and oranges. He's still a fantastic wrestler, and people that know about him all love him.
Yeah, no, he's great. I mean, I've said it before. He's like the guy that, like, of all the people that, upon watching Progress, of guys that, like, I did not know, he's the one that's, like, resonated with me the most. And it was just based off his presentation, his wrestling. I think there's a lot of value in that. So,
yeah.
But hopefully he's still at it. So definitely going to be following him for sure. Tell me about Smash Wrestling.
So I didn't even know Smash Wrestling existed until this announcement.
Johnny Gargano was the champion, so apparently it's a big deal.
Yeah, so spoiler alert, in an upcoming show, you're going to get treated to an absolute belter of a match between Mark Haskins and Johnny for the belt.
Ooh.
And it's very, very, very good.
That sounds like my cup of tea, right? Right? See, I'm learning.
Or maple syrup.
Well, that's good to know. Oh, okay. Is that Qatar? Is that what you guys do over there?
No, that's Smasher from Canada, I think.
Okay, what the hell is Smash? Okay, is it a candy?
So Smash,
I've never heard of Smash before.
I don't know, but maybe they just like, they liked the Repo Man back in the day.
Who didn't? Who didn't? Well, since Mark Haskins is out, we got a alternate 8-man match for that spot. So all of the losers from the previous night and it's not a battle royal, it's not elimination. It's just, hey, throw 8 guys in there and see who wins. It's like one of the wrestling games. It's like always a story mode. It's like it's always a pain in the ass to win. But that's what we got here. And it's announced as 8 people because there was 8 tournament matches the night before. But the Origin also lost, so they come out and say, "Hey, we should be in this." So now they're in it, I guess. Now it's a 10-man. It's a fall match.
So being in the crowd for this live was fantastic because we didn't know that this was going to be happening, this match. And it was like, oh, wow, there's like all these there's all these incredible wrestlers in this match. It's going to be a crazy 8-person match that's just going to be great to kick off the show. There was a real buzz and excitement as the match was about to start. And you can see that the bell guy is about to tap the bell, and then that fucking Origin music hits, and you're like,
Here I am.
and we're like,
Dildos.
I thought we got rid of you guys last night.
Oh man, it's just always such a slow entrance too. It's
so
phenomenal.
And I loved how like they came out and did their bit and everyone hates them. And then was it Andrews and Cross just did the flip over the top onto them both? Like, fuck you.
Yep. Bell rings. I guess we're in this match now. Yeah, I mean, it's just chaos. I mean, any spots in particular stick out to you in this one?
Do you know what? This match was such a blur. I didn't really make any notes. I was just like, this is really like my main note on this was that actually I really like the second chance premise. Like,
yeah,
just it breaks up the like tournament matches, like, so it's not just 1-on-1 all the time. And obviously it doesn't make sense because people have already lost and they shouldn't have any right to go back in. But I kind of love the premise. I don't know what you
I don't
do.
like the idea. I don't think I like the idea of somebody winning a tournament when they lost a match.
Yeah, that is.
But
that is the thing. Like, maybe you could like have the
throw
winner
people that weren't in the tournament maybe in a match.
Yeah, or maybe all the losers then get a title shot for like the secondary title if it does have a like a Proteus title as it is now in progress, something like that. Because these kind of multi-man matches to kick off a show is always so much fun.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, everybody kind of gets. I mean, there's no like storytelling. There's no, feel out process, chain wrestling. It's just everybody's getting in their big moves. There's a fun little interaction between Matt Cross and Mark Andrews, the two high flyers. Matt Cross does the what do you call it? The Sasuke special or whatever, like the handspring into the moonsault over the top rope onto everybody. Ligero tries to dive onto everybody, but Joe Allen, who they had a little run in the night before, he's like, no, you're not doing that. But then he ends up like backdropping Ligero over the ropes on the pile of bodies. And then Rampage goes to the top and he shows why he shouldn't do that. He dives to the pile of bodies again onto the outside. He kind of slips, but he lands it.
Yeah.
Whatever. Mark Andrews busting out a double Poison Rana somehow to Pete Dunne and Ligero.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah.
But then ultimately, Mark Andrews hits the shooting star press to Pete Dunne for the win. And when this happens, so Mark Andrews wins. He's back in the tournament, and my thought is like, well, this makes sense. He had the best match the night before. Let's throw him in there and have some more good matches. And it's like, maybe we'll get Chris Hero versus Mark Andrews again, which I'm not going to complain about. So,
who do you think was also in the like running for that shot? Like when they had to make that call in the morning, do you think it was between him and Rampage? Maybe.
Ooh, looking at these names, I almost like because when I was watching this, I was like you. It was like kind of like it felt like a blur and it was hard to digest. But I was like also like, so whoever wins this isn't winning the tournament, so who cares?
Right, yeah.
But the winner of this would go on to the finals, so eggs on my face, I guess. But yeah, Mark Andrews is up there. To me, it'd be like an underdog type of person to like win this battle royals. Maybe like not Kenny Williams. I don't think Kenny Williams would do it unless you just wanted to like hot shot him, like really show who he is. Yeah. But Rampage, you could always go to. Ligero can Ligero or Dave Mastiff could be underhanded and kind of play off of that. Well, we lost, but we're still in it, ha ha ha, kind of thing. But
part of me thinks Ligero would have actually been a really good shout here because that would have meant that Tommy End's win in the final would have meant a lot more, I think, because it's a lot more of a celebration that he wins. Whereas because of what Andrews went through, End winning was a bit like, oh, I'm happy for End.
Yes.
But I kind of wanted Andrews to win.
That's a good call, actually. Yeah. I don't know, but it was fun for what it was. Throw Damon Moser in there. Who cares?
Yeah, my boy.
You're a a hoser? I don't know. That's a different thing. Well, Mark Andrews wins, but boy, the Pearl Harbor jobs are just all over the place. Mikey Whiplash attacks him on the stage as he's about to leave. And Whiplash is like, hey, let's just do this quarterfinal match right now. And Andrews is like, I'm a babyface, so I gotta say yes. So now we have this match right away. Man, that shit always happens to Mark Andrews. He won the Progress title, and then he had to face Jimmy Havoc. It's just maybe he asks for it. I don't know.
He's too nice.
He is. He has a very like bullyable face about him, you know?
And saliva all over his hand.
Yeah. You don't think he washed it off? You think it's still there? Well, no saliva here. Not on his hand or the band. But Mikey Whiplash is here. He throws him in the ring. Obviously, he took advantage of him not seeing him coming. Goes for his Death Valley driver in the ring. But Mark Andrews, that cheeky bloke, counters into a roll-up out of nowhere for the win. So Mark Andrews, I don't know, it was like 60 seconds.
Yeah, it was really short.
From bell to bell. But Andrews just kind of like catches him by surprise and gets the quick flash win here. So, so Andrews moves on. How'd you feel about that? How'd you feel about how all this played out?
I absolutely loved it. I think it made perfect sense for Whiplash to try and win in a cheap way. It made perfect sense to get Andrews being the babyface and accepting, and then pulling out the win like he's always capable of. So yeah, tick, tick, tick for me.
Yeah, I think by the end of this night, Mikey Whiplash just looks like a silly goose. Like, I know we're building to him and Tommy End, or maybe I'm assuming, but it didn't seem like a guy that was gonna beat Tommy End. But we'll touch more on him. We're not done with Mikey Whiplash tonight, that's for sure. But after that, we got our next quarterfinal match. We got Zack Gibson versus Jack Gallagher. I think this is so Gibson does his whole spiel in the beginning. The soon to be recognized, the Liverpool's #1, which I think is like his new catchphrase at this point, which is what he'll go on to.
You'll hear a lot more of that.
Oh, hey, I watched NXT UK, man. I'm familiar. He calls himself a scouse, which now I know what that is. All right, check that off. I love the dynamic here between these two because they're both like quality technical wrestlers, but you have like Jack Gallagher's got the silliness about him, whereas Zack Gibson's all business. Are you having a laugh? Like that kind of guy. So I like the petty shit talking between the two while also having a really good technical wrestling match. So I enjoyed this for what it was. What about you?
You're right about Gibson. That like character work that he does is fantastic, and it's comical. It's the same as what Ring Camp for Imperium now do, but they're like blanket faced and like, the ring is sacred and they're like po-faced, but like Gibson is so overly animated when he's trying to say like, what are you doing? Like it's impossible to not laugh at him. He's just so funny. I absolutely love him. And as you say, this was a fantastic matchup of technical British wrestlers. I think they had a match at the NXT Royal Albert Hall show where Gibson made the final. No, he actually won that tournament and then faced Dunne on night 2.
Yeah,
pretty sure that these two faced off then as well, and they just match up really well. They're similar but very, very different. And there is a little touch on here where you may not know this, but he's a big Liverpool fan, the football team. And around this time, they were very close to winning their first ever Premier League title. And their captain at the time, Steven Gerrard, they had a camera in the like group huddle pre-game, and he was saying, "Do not slip. This is our chance. Do not slip." And then during the game, he slipped, and the guy ran in and scored, and it was a big like laughing stock thing for him. So there's a bit on this where he goes to do that thing where he jumps on the second rope and then turns around and slips on purpose. And then everyone says like then everyone uses it as a way to like laugh at him for supporting Liverpool. It's such a clever little ploy, and everyone just bit on it. It was great.
Wow.
And then again, he uses the turnbuckle and the referee to cheat. And again, in a similar way to the Black Mass being put over in this tournament, the Shankly Gates got over in this tournament as well. And it's a great move. I love that move.
Yeah, that's a hilarious bit of context because when I saw the slip, and I was like, oh, he slipped. That happens. But the way they kind of played into it, where he slipped and he was like, the crowd was razzing him about it, and he was like yelling at the fans, and then again you just see this running corner drop kick from Jack Gallagher almost get the win. Yeah, I was like, that felt like too smooth of a capitalization on a botch, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it was great.
But yeah, like you said, it's a pretty much identical finish to Zach Gibson's win over Kenny Williams. Shoulder into the post, Shankly Gates. I think, yeah, the combination of the hitting the metal and then locking in that submission. Yeah, like you said, putting over that submission. Zach Gibson looks good here in this tournament, man. I mean, definitely one of the MVPs for sure. But he's
little side note. Now that they apparently are now free agents, where do you want them?
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
I know that's been in the talks for a while.
Yeah. So, do you see them going to like Impact or to AEW or back to Europe or Japan?
Right.
Because they can honestly work anywhere because they're both amazing.
I'm fine with them just kind of traveling wherever. Like, kind of feel like outside of WWE, it's a little more fluid, so you can kind of, be an Impact for a few months and then shift over to Japan and.
Because the World Tag League is coming up, right? That'd be pretty awesome.
Daddy, yeah, sign me up for that. I mean, their style fits in anywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, they obviously have the British classical style, but I mean that style I feel like just resonates with any company nowadays. So
yeah,
they're just a good base for like any style, which I think is why they're so good.
Yeah.
But
good luck to
Zach
him.
Gibson gets the win here. Yeah, good old Rip Fowler and
Jagger Reed.
Jagger Reed. Fuck off. Do you think they're gonna bring those masks with them wherever they go? Little like smiley face, whatever.
NXT has improved a lot, but that's probably their one big miss, I think.
You didn't like the schism?
I didn't hate it, but I hated the fact that they were in it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, after that, we got a couple big lads slapping their meats, as the kids say. We got Chris Hero versus Big Daddy Walter. By the way, his name is Big Daddy Walter. For anybody listening, I'm not just adding my 2 cents. I'm not just calling him Daddy. He is Big Daddy Walter. Taking on Chris Hero here. It's pretty much what you would expect, I think. Like, I mean, there's a bit more chain wrestling in the beginning than I expected, but then it just kind of evolves into just chop versus elbow, big boots, big suplexes, big power moves. I thought this was good. This is probably like, I don't know if it met my expectations of what these two could do. Maybe that's good. And the tournament, kind of the nature of it, how they've kind of been like beat down over time. It was still a very good match, but I think they had more in the tank here. But you're never going to get me complaining about Chris Hero versus Walter. So I enjoyed this one. What did you think about it? I
really enjoyed it. And I think it's interesting that you're saying that they've had a lot left, because you said it previously that Chris Hero showed a full range of his character in this tournament. And here was the complete opposite of Andrews, because this time it's him fighting from underneath against a guy that's bigger than him. So yeah. He actually plays the babyface here, and Walter does a bit of the old Mick Foley, and the amount of times that he puts a rear chin lock on in this match. Like, there's so many oof strikes that you expect in this match, but just as it gets going, Walter's like, let's wrap on that chin lock for a bit. And that was really interesting, because obviously they were playing off that Hero, is he a good guy, is he a bad guy, and for this match in particular, he was playing the good guy. And then I thought it was a really smart play that he then used the Gotch pile driver that Claudio uses, because it's like the little nod to his time in ROH that everyone loves him for. So it was quite clever. I thought that, like, yeah, I'm the good guy now. I'm going to do these little nods to the time that people really loved me. And Walter went against the style that he used in his first match to try and help Hero on that side of things. So yeah, a really interesting match. Yeah. And like, as you say, it's one that they could have wrestled at a style that maybe would have got more stars, if that's a thing. But for the story, I think that they wrestled the right way.
No, yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, towards the end, Hero hits Walter with a series of elbows and then a discus one to the back of the head. That only gets a 2 count. And then, kind of similar to his first match with Andrews, he's like hitting him with all these bombs, and he's just like, I guess I gotta kill you now. So he pile drives him, and that gets the win. So good stuff by both these guys. Yeah, hopefully we're off to the races with. I know Walter becomes a big deal eventually, but at some point,
yeah, it still takes some time. It isn't straight away. You're gonna have to tune in for a few more chapters yet, mate.
I guess I have to. But now we have another quarterfinal match. I think it's the last quarterfinal match. Tommy End versus Sami Callihan. Another intense stare down. I guess it's just Tommy's thing. He likes to eye fuck everybody before he wrestles them.
What a
Sammy
tease.
charges him, gets a kick right to the face for his yeah, he's a tease, that's for sure. I think this is the point, because I watched all of this within like 12 hours.
Right,
it was in 2 sittings. So I think this is the point where I was starting to get a little dizzy from all the wrestling.
Yeah.
But it was good. I mean, everything kind of started to blur together a little bit, but I mean, there were some stiff strikes in this one. Sammy hits Tommy with a brutal looking pile driver, and he's following up on the heelness that he established the previous night. Tries to low blow Tommy in the same manner that he did Matt Cross, but Tommy catches it with his knees, which I thought was very clever. But then spins him around, and Sammy just punches him right in the cock. So it's like, well, you can't stop it twice, I guess. Ultimately, this is a real thing I typed. Sami Callihan tries to kiss Tommy End. Or no, he does kiss him. Wait, does he kiss him? I forget.
I didn't
Let's
see a
review
kiss.
the tape.
I just saw the.
I
just saw the eye
you
fucking.
blow a kiss. You blew your load right away, man. You gotta pace it out a little more. No, he like kisses him on the cheek or something. I forget. I just say he kisses. No, let's go with it. They kiss on the lips. They make love. And then Tommy End hits him with the black mass for the win. So Tommy gets the win here. But I thought Sammy, he represented, he felt like he stuck out among everything else with this character work and stuff. So I thought it was good.
Yeah, I was really impressed with both of Callahan's matches. I must admit that my memory of this weekend is clouded by Chris Hero, and that's what I remember from 6 years ago or whatever this was. So watching it back in a full show, I thought Sami Callihan had a great showing, and this was another sprint. So it was wrestled at a real fast pace. I love the fact that even because they were going at such a pace, that there was a few little times that they slipped or they were in a wrong spot sometimes, that they managed to just like plow through. And like, I think one time that Tommy End slipped off the ropes and then Callahan just picked him up and tombstoned him as if like prick.
That's what you get.
Yeah, so I absolutely loved it. And I love the fact that, as I said, that it had a clear dynamic because people weren't too sure how to deal with Callahan as a fan going into the first match because we weren't too sure who he was or what he was. But on day 2, we knew that he was the heel. We knew that we loved Tommy End, and it worked great.
For sure.
But I do have a story from on the day of that where there was a particularly drunk man who got quite...
was it you?
It wasn't me or Dom, actually. It was just some guy that was quite a violent drunk, and he was getting quite gobby. And there was this quite middle-aged woman that was watching the show, and she just happened to love Sami Callihan. Fair enough. I don't advocate cheering heels and the other way around, but do whatever you want. You've paid your ticket, whatever. But this guy took such objection to it that he was screaming, like spitting in this like 40-year-old woman's face, being like, "He's a fucking heel, you cunt." And like people had to break it up, and it's like this is not okay. And there's obviously the one rule of progress, which is don't be a dick. And that angry man got taken out back and dealt with a stern talking to, and then brought back in.
It's like, Jesus, he got sodomized for yelling at a lady. Wow. You guys that's what happens when you get 3 intermissions in a show, right?
Yeah.
You just had more opportunity to get pissed, huh?
Exactly.
Having a go, drinking some pints. I hear you. Well, that aside, we got some semi-final action on our way. We're down to the wire here.
Before we got to the semi, though, Kyle, we also saw the catwalk by Colin.
Yeah, you figured we should probably talk about that, right? Yeah, please give your in-depth analysis on Colin's catwalk.
Well, firstly, he was dressed like a 1960s Austin Powers wannabe, kind of
right.
flared jeans,
Bell bottoms. Yep.
tight, flowery shirt, great trimmed mustache, bit of a mullet, looked incredible. Jim Smallman spotted him front row and was like, Colin, people have to see how good you look. And ordered him to do a catwalk around the ring.
Yeah.
Which he kind of tried to do in like a jog to start with, because he was probably quite embarrassed. But then Jim ordered him to do it in a catwalk. And boy, did he nail it. He was fantastic.
How many stars?
I'm going to give it 4.5. 5 in the Tokyo Dome.
All right. Of course. Yeah, he was. It was an outfit choice. I don't know what, like, because it's very hipster in Progress, right? There's a lot of flannels and Progress shirts. That's pretty much all it is. So he stuck out, I guess. The most stylish fan, I believe.
Well, he was very
Jim
hipster,
Smallman.
but in a different way.
He was 70s hipster. I get you. I get you. Well, a couple hipsters here.
Big up, Colin.
And what do you think Colin's up to now? Is he still going to Progress shows?
I haven't seen him for a while. I hope he's well.
Have you met him?
He's got like I hope he's got like a like a vintage clothes shop.
Oh, I see.
That's what I hope for
Or maybe he enters the wrestling business, and that was his origin story here from this chapter.
Imagine
Like,
that.
they all made fun of me. Now I'm going to show them.
And that man turned out to be Spike Trevay.
I was going to go Tyler Breeze or even though I think this is after Tyler Breeze. I don't know.
Anyway,
Speaking of
move on
breezing.
from Colin.
Well, let's breeze on to this next match. Mark Andrews versus Zack Gibson. It's at this point they bring out Marty Scurll to be the guest commentator, the Progress champion, which I was kind of surprised he didn't have any matches. I don't know if he was hurt or if they just maybe didn't have time to throw him in somewhere, but he's doing commentary. He's, he gave it his all, I guess.
It's a good payday. It's a good payday.
Like the match is going on and Marty's just like, oh, I bet that hurt. It's just that a lot. It's very Art Donovan-esque, his commentary, which I'm all for. I support it. But Gibson again does his pre-match spiel. I'm gonna drop you on the dick. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. I'm not even gonna
That was so Scottish.
That was more, that's what it was. I could never do a Scottish accent on purpose, but if I just try to be Zack Gibson, it comes out. This one comes and goes very quickly. I didn't have my stopwatch on me, but it couldn't have been more than like 4 minutes.
Yeah, it was a quick boy.
Zack Gibson or Mark Andrews at the bell tries to get the quick win over Zack Gibson, but he kicks out. And Gibson kind of gets the advantage for a bit. It's a bit back and forth. Gibson locks in the Shankly Gates, which has finished all of his opponents so far. But Andrews finds a way to counter out of it with a roll-up and gets the win out of nowhere. So I thought this was, like, it's the tournament format kind of thing, whereas like people are getting beat down over time. They're losing HP as the night goes on. It takes less to beat a person. And that's kind of like the rest of the tournament. I feel like the matches aren't super long. And Mark Andrews, a story they're telling of the underdog, like how is he still alive in this thing? Like I thought it was good how they did this. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I've got nothing more to add than what you just did, other than I absolutely loved the fact that the Progress fans turned that shitty "you deserve it" chant around, and then rather than saying it in a positive way, it was in a negative way towards Gibson.
Phenomenal. That's the only way it should be used, by the way. Fans listening. Heroes eventually die, right? That's the tag team name?
Yeah.
Of Chris Hero and Tommy End. I'm not really familiar with them as a tag team. Have you seen any of their work?
Only like small little clips back in the day when it was you could download like certain clips on some dodgy websites.
So you LimeWired some okay.
Set to some like, terrible metal music.
Right, of course. Was that the music that because they played some music before either of these guys came out? Was that their tag team music?
I think it might have been, yeah.
I thought like there was a botch somewhere. I was like, what the hell is this shit?
What is this shit?
or is like somebody coming out with a different character for this? I don't know, but it's where they're both.
Yeah, so it's kind of it was billed as kind of student v teacher, wasn't it?
I see. Yeah, because they came out in matching tank tops with, I guess, with their symbol on it. So there was like solidarity there. So it was very much like you said, student versus teacher. It's
like Michael Dante wasn't even born.
Wow. Yeah, we really got over him fast, huh? Man, no respect for the Dons.
Or because he couldn't sit. Or because he couldn't sit on that table.
You think that's where it all went downhill for Michael Dante? Stupid British tables. What? Oh, it was all in when the ladder shit the bed.
Yeah.
It's like every time there's a ladder in Europe, it just all goes downhill.
We don't like have stores that like or pre-make them like maybe you guys do in America that they're gimmicked slightly, but like we just go to the hardware store and buy them, and it's like
you don't get the WWE ones that are like held together by gum. You just this is a proper ladder. Let's slam somebody on this, see what happens. Well, no ladders in this match, thank God. But lots of elbows, lots of kicks. I mean, as you would imagine with these two guys, they fight. Because Skrull's on commentary on the stage area. They fight like down the aisle on the stage. Hero hits his cyclone kick on the stage, which I think it's a little foreshadowing to the next chapter, to the main event. Him and Skrull have some words. But ultimately, this match, it's very strong style. It's very you hit me hard, and then I'll hit you hard, and we'll see who dies first.
That's exactly what it was. Even the very start of it, they just kind of like offered them like hit me. And then they would go, be like, thank you. And then it'd be like, hit me. Yeah, it was very, I enjoyed it, but it didn't reach the heights of the other end matches for me personally. But I did enjoy the fact that Tommy End obviously was putting over the black mass as the thing that can kill anyone. And Chris Hero was like, I'm kicking out of that bad boy.
That doesn't work for me, brother. That was my thing, because Tommy hits him with a flying knee, a double stomp, and then the black mass, and only gets a 2 count. So it's like, okay, the super finisher, we're immediately just kind of throwing it in the trash, I think.
And like, sometimes closing stretches of matches can take a match from you feeling like, that was a good match to that was a brilliant match. If that match finished with that stretch, I'm probably finishing this match and being like, sick match, great match. As it was, they did the middle rope power driver kick out from End that Hero did. And then literally 30 seconds later, he gets rolled up and wins. And it's like, should you be really winning in that way after being power driven off the second rope? I don't know. Like, I personally didn't love the finish. I think that the finish with as you say, the 3 strikes and out should have been the finish. But let's not say that this wasn't a good match. It was a good match. We're nitpicking a little bit, but the big thing, I guess, coming out of this was, of course, Skull and Hero, which leads into the next chapter.
Loser. Marty's yelling at him as he's leaving.
Yeah.
They tussle a little bit. I don't even know if they touch each other, but there's definitely like some sexual tension between the two. So
well, he just
take care of that next time.
Well, he just spent 15 minutes fucking Tommy End, so he was turned on.
Yeah, to unleash the beast somewhere. So I understand. Well,
where did you? Obviously, you said that your MVP was Chris Hero. Do you have it as Andrews, Walter, End as your favorite matches of the 3?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, for Chris Hero matches for sure.
Yeah.
But after that we got something to break up the semifinals and the finals. First, we got a Progress Tag Team Title #1 contendership street fight. The Dazzler team, the team of Daryl Allen and Earl Black Jr. versus Sweet Jesus, Chuck Mambo, and Pastor William Ever. I was exhausted at this point, and I think the crowd was too.
Yeah.
I mean, you were there, so was that the vibe?
Yeah, that was definitely the vibe, but I completely understand why this match is here. It's a chance to kind of breathe in between the semis and the final. And to be fair, for a lot of Progress fans, they were diehard fans and they were going to the Endeavour shows, and this was built on matches that were happening in Endeavour, so there was interest there. But it's quite funny because obviously, I don't know if they touched on this in commentary or not. I can't remember, but this was like it was a 2 out of 3 falls match on Endeavour, and one of the finish was a literal peel finish. So they slip on a peel, and then
Of course they do.
another one of the matches ended when someone got hit by a pineapple.
Oh,
And in this match,
actually sounds like it sucks.
And in this match, they use a frying pan, a kettle, and a watermelon. So, like food, kitchen seems to just be the vibe for this feud.
Yeah, no, it's very, I mean, there's beach balls pelting the ring. There's chairs get involved. All of those culinary items that you just mentioned. Everything is it's just chaos. It's a street fight, so it's the nature of it. Daryl Allen sends Chuck Mambo through a table by throwing him off the top rope. You got Mambo doing springboards to the outside. Mambo at some point, well, first of all, Bill Ever, the pastor, the winner of the Natural Progression series, hits one of the guys with a crucifix powerbomb, and he's Jesus, right? So he says, Mambo, rise, which I thought was funny. So his partner rises up, grabs a deflated beach ball under the ring with thumbtacks in it, spills the thumbtacks all over, the drawing pins, spills them all over the ring. The Dazzlers try to do dual styles clashes onto Sweet Jesus, onto the tacks, but end up getting backdropped onto them. So the Dazzlers are all tacked up. But the Dazzler, I'm saying Dazzle so many times, the Dazzlers hit the Dazzler death drop into the tacks for the win, which I don't even remember what that is. But the Dazzler team gets the win, and I guess they're the number one contenders to the London Riots. Yeah,
which obviously now that the Riots are champions, their baby faces, Dazzler team are heels. There was a pretty obvious winner here, but fair play to these guys. Like I said with Cross and Callahan, they were in a difficult spot, like in a different way, like because it's just like a tired crowd rather than one that has been burnt out. But I thought that they did a decent job here, like for what they had to do, and fair play to them. They for a match that was, let's face it, a throwaway match, even though it's a number one contender match on a show like this, they put their bodies through it in this match, and they didn't have to. Let's be honest. So,
they worked hard as hell, yeah.
So fair play to them. But yeah, I've got just some one fun memory of Earl Black Jr. When he was a singles wrestler. And how would you he's almost kind of Zack Gibson in like the way that his face is just like he's just got a funny face, the way that he can gravitate his face into different things are funny.
It moves a lot. Like his expressions are very prominent.
Yeah. He's just like someone that you just kind of have to laugh at, and He had this. I can't even remember who he was wrestling, but he had someone in the corner, and he just gave them like a forearm, and then walked into the middle of the ring, put his arms up like Rhino, and just went old school violence to just tumbleweed from the crowd.
Nothing makes me laugh harder than somebody being very excited to no reaction. That's so good.
And every time that I hear "Oh, Black Jr." in my head, I just say, "Oh, old school violence."
Well, now that's canon for me as well, so I appreciate that. Well, I gotta say, this show, I was disappointed because LA Knight today is on fire. The stuff, but now I'm disappointed because now I know he didn't invent that. It was actually the Big Wavy Roy Johnson, who, yeah. All right, yeah. Let me tell you, what is the dialect that he is?
It's South London.
Oh, is that like the south side of Dudleyville?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So he gets. I think he gets announced that he's from Don't Ask Questions, South London.
That's so funny. Well, we got a Waste Man challenge on our hands here, gang. We got, which for anyone unfamiliar, which I don't know how you would be, you get the chance to either wrestle them or rap battle them. And it's an open challenge. And who takes this open challenge? None other than Eddie Dennis, which I was mad at how excited I got when I heard his music. I was like, oh, this will be fun. I do got to say, though, you people cannot rap. You do something. It's fast poetry. Maybe Tiny Tempa. Isn't he like a British rapper? I don't know.
That's an old school reference. I like it.
Old
school violence. Old school reference.
Old school. I'm just going to do that in my daily life now, and nobody's going to know what I'm referencing. But it's going to make me laugh. So, yeah. Did you... all I heard out of this whole interaction was Eddie Dennis rapping and saying that Roy Johnson's mom has a penis. So, that's about all I got. Thoughts?
Talking about British people not being able to rap, he chose to sing or rap a Welsh parody rap troupe called Goldie Looking Chain. And the song that he was rapping was called Your Mother's Got a Penis.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
So that's the
so
kind
he copyrighted a song, is what you're saying. It wasn't a freestyle, is what you're telling me from Eddie Dennis.
No, it was so like Gold Licking Chain are culturally relevant in British culture for being purposely shit, and that's something that British people do very well. We're quite self-aware.
Well, that's good. That's a good quality to have.
But yeah, it was so the Wasteman Challenge was something that people loved. The Wasteman Challenge. It was just a way to get Roy Johnson over. Mm-hmm. But we actually had Roy Johnson on the Wrestling Should Be Fun podcast when he was trying to promote his Everything Pattern show, which is where he tries to get people of color throughout the card. So from everyone from ring crew to the ring announcers to commentators, the wrestlers themselves, referees, everyone that's involved in it, it's called Everything Pattern, and it's a way to try and say like inclusivity is possible in wrestling, and look at all these talent that are able to do it. And he looks at these cards throughout Britain, and there's like 3-4 people of color on these cards, and he's trying to argue that like he's not pointing fingers at what or when or why, but he's just saying like it is possible to have a lot more diversity on these cards. And fair play to him. And he actually spoke about the Wasteman Challenge, where he said that he started off just as excited about it as the fans were. But what largely it became in Progress Wrestling was a way for him not to wrestle. And actually, it didn't get anyone over other than the person that he would bring in. So he was always like at the start, it was him doing the rap to 2 people, and it was a way to get him over. And then he wrestles, and then he wins or loses, whatever, he still gets over. By the end, he would challenge someone, wouldn't even get to rap. Then someone would come out similar to what Eddie Dennis does, diss him, and then he doesn't even wrestle. And he was like, it actually proved detrimental to him, which is a bit of a shame, because when it first started, it was pretty just new and fresh and exciting. But yeah, just for whatever reason, it just fell into a different spot for him, sadly.
Would you say like this challenge deal, did it like eventually get pigeonholed into like this kind of like cool down spot on the show where it's like, we're not going to take this seriously. Like, go dance, go be a mascot kind of thing. Yeah. I can see that.
And he had an Atlas title match against Rampage Brown at the Dome, which were like the shows that aren't the proper chapter shows. And that was the match where he got to really wrestle, and it was a great match. And then even after that, he still didn't get booked. And yeah, I don't really know what happened there, but he's still doing his thing. He still wrestles on the independents. I I saw on his Twitter that he's recently engaged, so I'm sure he's happy.
Well, look at that. Look at that. Big Roy Johnson. Yeah, I've seen the everything pattern thing. I know RJ Singh's been on a few of them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Our boy. So good on Big Wavy. Good on Big Wavy doing big things. Even though he gets, his ass kicked by Eddie Dennis, both verbally and physically here.
Yeah.
So,
basically, don't spill your beer on a Welshman. That's the
don't do that.
Of the tale.
That's how I live my life. Desperately avoiding that. Well, we kind of touched on this earlier a little bit, but we got our finals here for the Super Strong Style from 2016. We got Tommy End versus Mark Andrews. I definitely got the impression that both guys, I don't know if they were actually, running on fumes here, but that seemed to be kind of the story here where, I don't think this was particularly long either.
No, I think it's the shortest ever final in this tournament. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, to expand on your point, I do agree with, I think you make a good point that Tommy End beating Mark Andrews here. Tommy End's the guy, if it wasn't going to be Mark Haskins, it was going to be Tommy End, because Tommy had been building so much momentum with his title matches and his main event matches against Marty Scurll, how he gets screwed out of the thing, and now he's trying to earn his way back. So I think there was a big groundswell for Tommy, and he's just a cool dude. He's a cool wrestler. People love him.
Yeah.
So I think him facing off against Mark Andrews, who has this underdog story, the match of the tournament, it's nobody really wants to cheer or boo either of these guys. So I feel the story, to your point, could have been told better if it was a Ligero or even you want to throw a Pete Dunne or somebody. I think that might have been, because it was, Tommy End wins, Black Mass after countering the Shooting Star Press. But no, I felt kind of, okay, it's over now. I didn't feel the excitement that a London Riots winning the tag team titles kind of thing that I felt. So
yeah, it's obviously they were hamstrung by the fact that Haskins had his issues, and you don't know, and we'll never know, I guess, what the story was going to be with Haskins, the story that they were going to tell of Haskins throughout the rest of the 2-3 matches that he would have wrestled to get here. And obviously it had to be rushed through. So I think they did well booking Andrews, because he did have the biggest crowd swell from the previous match, and he kind of fits that underdog having to wrestle an extra thing. And I quite like the way that they wrestled this match, because Tommy End smelt blood straight away. He was like, this guy's wrestled more matches than me. He's already lost a match. I'm unbeaten. And he kind of went straight for it in that kind of Sami Callihan way that he did throughout his matches. And I love the fact that every time that he was trying to catch him to start with, Andrews could evade him, but he couldn't for too much longer. And eventually he gets caught. But of course we get the Whiplash stuff, which I didn't mind. I'm an old school ECW fan, and I like the lights out moment just as much as Tony Khan does. But
yeah, well, Progress doesn't spam it like Tony Khan does. It's very few and far between.
But I did quite like the fact that Whiplash came back in here, because it was almost like Whiplash realized that Andrews was on his last legs as well, and I quite like that kind of storytelling of if I don't do something here, Tommy's going to win this tournament. And it also played into the fact that he looks like a goober, because he got hit with a black mass almost immediately. But the storytelling's there, so I didn't mind that. And then I did really quite enjoy the end, where obviously Andrews had just reached empty, and he almost did the willingness of hit me one more time, the Ric Flair, oh Yeller, I know I'm done, but you've got to hit me one more time.
I'm sorry, I love you.
Yeah, but because Tommy End's cool, he doesn't say that. He just fucking smashes him.
He felt it though. He felt it.
But yeah, it was short, but it kind of, I don't know if a 20-minute match after what they've both been through would have really worked in it either. So
yeah.
I feel like they were in a difficult situation with the Haskins thing, and maybe this is the better of the two, rather than going 20 minutes plus the run in from Whiplash.
Yeah. All is well that ends well, I guess. Tommy End wins, and now he's in the main event scene again. So, it was good, and it was a great tournament. This final, Whiplash. I mean, we got to expand on why he looked like such a goober. So Tommy ends on the top rope, going for his double stomp onto Mark Andrews. The lights go out. The lights come back on, and Mikey's in the ring. He's like trying to size up Tommy, but he's looking the wrong direction, and he turns around, gets the black mask. Such an idiot. But they're playing off. He did this at the last chapter, so now Tommy's wise to it, so it all makes sense. But it's just he looks silly. But
the one thing that I did actually really like in this was, even though he's like the ultimate babyface, and you shouldn't really have your babyface taking advantage of that situation, I love the fact that Andrews did, because it tells the story that he knows that he's on empty, and he was like, if I don't take this opportunity, I've got no chance.
Yeah. No, it was all good. And then, like you said, just the slow rise of Andrews afterwards. He's like, kill me, daddy. And then he kills him. And then it's all good, man. All good. So Tommy is your SSS 16. That's very jumbled. But he wins the thing. He won the thing, and he has the thing.
Now that you're 30 chapters in, can you kind of tell that this is like really cooking now? Like progress is cooking, right?
Yeah, I can see, because it's almost, because I've been watching a lot of Rev Pro recently, and you actually brought up the show that I just watched where it was like Kevin Steen versus Marty Scurll, who was the champion. You had Nakamura versus Zack Sabre Jr. You had Prince Devitt versus Adam Cole. But it's very light on the story. Yeah. It's just dream matches. And I'm not saying that progress is here yet, but you could kind of see like these people coming over, and I could see the direction that they're maybe going, where they're like maybe prioritizing dream match over story, because like the first 20 chapters, or really like 10 through 20, it was just like this. It was really just kind of one main story, but it was fantastic with Havoc and Ospreay, and then you still got really good stories at this point, and I'm just sure lots more to come. But yeah, definitely. I mean, the energy of the crowd, you can feel it. You can definitely feel that progress is hot. That British wrestling as a whole is hot. You could see it with their collaborations with WWE and just everybody that's coming over. So yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying. I always get excited to watch these progress shows, so I'm all about it for sure.
I find it really interesting because obviously the British wrestling scene right now, you probably aren't across it because you probably don't follow a lot of British wrestling nerds, but it's becoming kind of tribalist with like Progress versus Rev Pro versus OT. Like I don't understand tribalism in American wrestling where it's huge companies, and I understand it even less in small independent wrestling. Like I do not get it.
There's tribes everywhere, man. Can't avoid it.
I blame Roman Reigns.
It's all his fault. Put those ones up. Well, speaking of Roman Reigns, let's talk about how you guys roam. How you guys reign in the Wrestling Should Be Fun podcast. First of all, Ross, appreciate you making the time. Oh, it's goddamn 2 a.m. over there in Qatar. Appreciate you making the time to watch these shows. Come on, talk about it. Where can everybody find Wrestling Should Be Fun? The podcast, the social medias, your OnlyFans, all of it.
Yeah, so OnlyFans are currently geo-blocked in Qatar, but apart from that, you can find
I was wondering where it was.
No, so we've recently just reopened our Facebook page. It was social media that I've not really done anything with, and that's my fault because I just haven't had time. But
I haven't touched mine in forever either. Don't worry.
So one of the Wrestling Should Be Fun lads, Shafi's taken that on. He's done a fantastic job. So you can find us there. Wrestling Should Be Fun. TikTok has been taken on by our youngest member, Oscar, who's 19 years old. So we immediately handed him the TikTok reins.
So he knows what the kid's like.
Yeah.
You'll see him twerking.
That's Wrestling Should Be Fun. Dom does the Instagram, and that's where you can find his Simpsons-based memes mostly. And also he is in charge of our live show feed. So whenever we go to a live show, he does the Instagram stories. He does a fantastic job of showing what it's like being a Wrestling Should Be Fun nerd and going to these shows as part of the group. It's probably the most inclusive follow for Wrestling Should Be Fun. It's the way to see what what we're about as a live wrestling crowd. Then the Twitter is myself, where I just try and throw as much shit at the wall. That is WSBFUN. And then, of course, the podcast, which is available at all your podcast places. We are a Friday release, our weekly show. We do show reviews. We have a thing called the Roundtable, where if it's not a show week, we'll have a topic that we'll talk about, whether that be CM Punk or the need for tweeners in wrestling or whatever it may be. So that's our podcast. And then we also have guests on. We've, for example, this week we've got the owner of Ignite Pro Wrestling, a small independent promotion in the UK, and talking to him about what it's like to run a independent in the UK. And we also talk to wrestlers, referees, promoters, you know it. And also some guy called Kyle comes on once a year.
I skipped that episode. Not a fan. No, it was Booker Bingo is probably one of my favorite parts of it. It was at Conan versus Tamina or whatever the hell we did.
Yeah, you had a tough draw.
I'll have to redeem myself next time, if there is a next time.
Yeah, Booker Bingo has taken a bit of a step back recently because our shows have become so long because we've got a lot more people on them now. And our editor sometimes gets a bit angry. Well, most of the time, quite rightly, gets angry because he tells us to keep it to 60 minutes, and then we hand him a file that's 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
Well, I'll be sure to bring it back on this one next time. We'll do like Bubblegum versus who else? Big Wavy, maybe. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll get the wheel. I'll get the wheel made. We'll spin it.
I'm a little bit sad that we didn't get to hear your thoughts on old Bubblegum this chapter.
Well, here's my thoughts. Let me tell you about this guy.
Once again, thank you to Ross from Wrestling Should Be Fun for joining me once again on this lovely, lovely progress journey. Always a good time with Ross. Go check him out on Twitter. He runs the Twitter for Wrestling Should Be Fun, but also go check out the Instagram, the TikTok, the MySpace, the UJIS, the Pornhub. Unless you're in Virginia, you don't get Pornhub anymore, so you'll just have to find another way to reach them. Not that I would know, but do that. Follow me if you want. If you've made it this far, I mean, I don't know what else I gotta do. Earn your follow, but do that. Oh, I think that's about all Daddy has for you today. It's been a fun old time. It's been a gay old time. Did I ever say that earlier? Gay old time, I think, is a phrase that needs to make a comeback. How's your day been? It's been pretty gay. I guess, you can still say that as a different context. But anyways, I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. I'm going to leave you. I'm going to hit stop on the record button, but not before I give you a smooch on the cheek. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. I truly love you all. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the chocolates that you send me. And I'm hard.
Yeah.
It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started.